So I'm going to show you how to put the deMIDulator's enclosure together. Here's a stack of panels that you will receive, and here's a complete board. What I start with is usually the bottom panel and the slide holders. So let's see, I already stuck one of these slide holders in here. You can see it right there. So hopefully these will push right in. If they don't push right in, sometimes you need to file out the hole in the bottom panel. I have this set of needle files. These are beautiful. These are everything you could possibly need to get the job done. Ideally, everything would be press fit, but in reality, that's not always the case. So usually these will fit in one way better than the other. So just kind of put it in place and press it down and see what it feels like. Okay, so I'm going to file these out just a little bit. So, I mean, if it pushes in, you can usually, you can force it. Just make sure you're putting pretty direct pressure on it. You don't want to bend it to the side, because otherwise the board's gonna, it's a plywood, so the layers are gonna separate. See, you press it in, and it's pretty flush on the bottom. Alright, the next thing I usually do is just take the slide and see how it's going to fit through here. Ah, that is beautiful. Okay, that works pretty well. So I'm just going to put this aside. What I do next is I hot glue in the nuts for the PCB holders. So you'll get 4 bolts and 4 nuts. There we go. You want to glue this nut inside the PCB holder right in the middle. I usually just use hot glue to do this. I just eye it. Not already dried on that side. So let's add some hot glue to this side. And you can get it along the back of this. You don't want to get glue along this edge, because it will interfere with the fit. You don't want to get glue up here because it will mess up the PCB. That's hot. You don't want to get glue at the bottom there because that will mess with the fit. Alright, now you have 4 glued little guys. You can glue in the microphone while we're waiting. So the microphone just goes through this hole. I like to put the leads closer to the inside. It fits better. You may have to file out this hole a little bit. I mean, you can force it through from the other side, but you run the risk of cracking the wood on the back side. Yeah, it's too tight. Use my circular file. Alright, that's good. If you just push it through till it's flush, it'll be nice and flush on the surface. And when you put glue here, you need to avoid putting it along this edge because the panel is going to fit flush with the inside there. So don't get glue in there, and don't get glue in there, and don't get glue in here. But you can get glue everywhere else, and I do. So I'm just going to put this aside for now. Let's take these side panels. So what I usually do is I fit these into the side panel first, obviously on the inside of the side panel. And it's not impossible that these are going to need some sanding, filing. and they do. Just force it in. You want to make sure you don't bend it back and forth, because it will crack. I also use one of these just to push everything in. Just that little extra that I'm afraid to do by hand. So now I have both side panels with all 4 of the PCB holders pressed in. If you had to do a lot of sanding to the holes in the panel to get these holders in the sides, you're probably going to have to do the same to the top panel for these slots here to get the tops of these in there. So, I mean, you can eyeball it and see. I mean, I can definitely tell if this is going to need it too. Put one of these side panels in first. What am I doing? Like this. And just line it up. I line everything up and then I push straight down. Alright, there we go. Yeah. Alright. So, it's a pretty clean joint. Press right onto the PCB right there. So, press that on. You don't want to crunch it between that cap. I've crunched many a cap. Just stick the switch and the line out jack in those slots. And then line up this other panel on this side. If you have the programming header, it's obviously going to be sticking out there at this point. Then you just line that panel up on top. And press it down. So at this point, just like to drive a screw, a bolt. I don't know why I keep saying screw. It's annoying the hell out of me. Drive a bolt into that guy. And that will give you a solid way to press straight down on it. Just with the screwdriver. Alright, it's 2 sides. I'm going to put these other 2 bolts in. I don't really like to tighten these yet because you may have to do some amount of alignment with the controls just to make everything fit square before you tighten the board in. So it doesn't matter which panel you put on next, but I usually make sure this corner right here fits inside the edge. Make sure everything kind of lines up, and then I generally just push that edge in with my fingers. Try to make sure it's as flush as possible with the edge there, and then just using my thumbs I push in each of these tabs one at a time, and this wood is fairly flexible, so it's not going to break, hopefully. So you can see there, like, I mean, the wood's pretty flexible. I push this tab in and it just bends. So I'll just keep pushing it in. And this is a point where I get the big guy and start to apply pressure. I mean, sometimes it will snap into place and it sounds like things are breaking, but it's okay. Things are not breaking, probably. And get all the way to the edge. Push the edge in. Kind of square everything up a little bit. Alright. Looks pretty good. So, it's looking pretty clean. And just do the same thing with the back panel. I use the same method. I lay it in, I push this side down, and then I work my way across and finish with this other side. Alright, it's looking pretty good. I mean, if you put too much pressure with this thing, you're obviously going to start breaking stuff, but usually it gives long before that. So that's it. I mean, it's pressed together. Everything's pretty tight. Now, just take this latch out, and it's when you put this bottom panel on that you'll see that it's not really square, if it is in fact not square. So, I mean, it fits on. It's not too bad. Make sure. Right. These always need filing out on the side here. So this is the opening in the side panel for the latch for the slide. So it's one side. Alright, and that's it. The switch caps, just stick them on, pot knobs, screw them down. That's it. That's your enclosure.